In this chapter, we will discuss counter-rotating ostinati. And to help with this, we have this example. If we look at violin 1 and violin 2, we can see that they don't have much to do with the ostinato of, for example, the bass or the cello. But they are all ostinato patterns. If we select the viola, cello, and contrabass tracks, we can hear these three instruments together. The chord progression is rather dramatic and cinematic, with a diminished progression at the end, and then it repeats. Now we can play the upper voices, the violins, and these are playing 16th notes that are ascending and descending chromatically. Also, to enhance the tension, the interval between the two violin lines is a tritone, so the lines move in a parallel manner to each other. At certain sections, they are not playing chromatically, but to retain the tension, the interval remains a tritone. The violin is a two-bar pattern that repeats, but it moves up a whole tone during the pattern. Of course, you could copy the first section and simply move the notes up in your DAW. The first instrument I will play is the cello, in order to create a solid basis. I will also do this at a slower tempo. The 16th notes would be tricky to play at a high tempo. The first few notes were slightly late. But we will move on to the contrabass anyway. And now we can add the viola, which is a fairly simple pattern. Now it gets a little bit more interesting, as I have to play in the violins. I'll start with the second violin. As you can hear, it requires a certain amount of concentration to play the 16th notes in neatly. Now we'll finish off with the first violin. To listen back, I'll set the tempo at 120 and I'll deactivate the click. Now, obviously, I could have played in somewhat better, but the effect is still there. The violins were a touch too loud, so I'll bring them down, as the motion of the violins should not be up front. It is the dramatic and almost mysterious effect we want, rather than the violins being a melody that we actually focus on. This shows us that despite the fact that there are a certain number of dissonant harmonies within the piece, when they are playing at a certain tempo, we don't notice them as false or harsh intervals, but as sweeping lines to create an atmosphere. The timing is also important in creating this sweeping effect. If the 16th notes were all precise and quantized, we would lose the blurring of the instruments that creates this mysterious and dramatic effect. So when playing at a certain tempo that is not too slow, chromatic sections are no longer heard as melodic lines, but as a sweeping effect. Now we can move on to another example.